Welcome to episode 57 of Pop Kannon. We are your hosts. My name is Jordan.
I'm Robert.
I'm Sarah.
And I'm Joe.
Today we are doing another S1E1, which means we go back, we take the pilot episode of a show that most of us have not seen, but at least one of us has. Out of all of us, Joe is the only one who has seen today's subject, which is Freaks and Geeks.
Freaks and Geeks.
I did not look up anything about this prior, aside from, knowing the successful careers of some of the stars of this show.
Yeah.
And I was pleasantly surprised. It was very fun. It was very uplifting. It had a good vibe. Yeah, it was actually. It was lighthearted. I felt like it was lighthearted.
Okay.
Aside from, the real shit. But,
the heavier things.
Yeah, but for the most part, it's a fun, lighthearted comedy, in my opinion. It was fun. Let's see, Sarah, what did you think?
I thought it was good. I mean, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it enough to get to the second episode, but that's about as far as I got. It was one of those things where it's been on my radar, I think, for years. One of those things that I felt like I should always watch, but never actually got around to it. And honestly, if we weren't doing it, I don't know if I would have ever actually watched it. I'm going back and forth because one of the things I was trying to decide was, because this is obviously older. It was filmed in 1999. I was 7. And it definitely has the late 90s, early 2000s vibes. But I think overall it held up decently well. I definitely think if it was filmed today, some of the things dialogue would have had to probably change, because there were a few jokes and things that didn't really land that well, but I enjoyed it overall. I thought it was a good pilot.
I liked it a lot, man. It's like Sarah said, it's one of those things that I've always been aware about and feel like I should be watching, but never did and didn't take the opportunities that I had to watch it previously. Because when I was ready to kind of sit down and I'm going to watch that show, it was off of whatever streaming service it had been on for a while. I think that was Netflix.
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought it was a great episode. Being set in 1980 and releasing in 1999 probably didn't necessarily help it, because I don't think that the culture was necessarily craving that nostalgia factor as hard as maybe they thought it might have. But I feel like if that show released now, it would do fucking killer numbers. But I thought that being set in 1980 made it interesting, because it's the 80s as we know them, or as we try to view them with the nostalgia glasses, don't exist yet, so it's a very interesting kind of place to put that episode. And I didn't think that it felt locked in any sort of time frame overall, though, because I thought the themes were kind of timeless. But yeah, I thought it was awesome. Joe, what'd you think, being the only person out of the three of us that's seen the entire season of this show, going back?
Yeah, so I watched this. I obviously didn't watch it when it came out, because I, too, was 7 years old. But it's one of those shows from that era that there were so many mid-season cancellation shows that go on to have cult followings, that and Mission Hill are two that come to mind. But in high school, I remember people telling me you have to watch this. It was the cult classic of my high school, basically. But yeah, I do think the 80s get super romanticized, and I think they were romanticized in real time by the movies that were coming out, the Ferris Bueller's and 16 Candles and all that. But I think Judd Apatow said well, no, that's not reality. That was a fantasy. And
yeah,
I think it is a good point that even though it's definitely set in the time in the 80s, it's also a timeless story, and that it's a universal high school experience. And I just really like how raw it is. And it speaks to both the time it's meant to represent and the time it came out. And like I completely forgot that the Eli story was in the pilot, and I was like, oh my God, we're gonna have to talk about this.
That's not the only thing I thought that about, by the way.
Yeah. So yeah, like, you know, the R slur coming around, and like like when I was a kid, like we didn't get that it was like wrong. So we threw it around like it was nothing to. But yeah, so definitely like a little bit of culture shock, and I'm a little bit curious to maybe watch the rest of the, you know, other 11 episodes to see how else this has changed, because I do think that this meant a lot to me in high school, but I don't think it would have the same meaning now. And just as a final point, like speaking to the cast, like it's amazing. I don't think you could ever find another show that was canceled mid first season that like virtually the entire cast went on to like phenomenally successful careers. Like, even just the side characters are like, oh my God. Martin Starr is like a gift to the world. And like his like comedic presence is virtually unchanged from when he was like 17, I think, when they filmed this. And like you can see like a direct through line from like Freaks and Geeks to Silicon Valley with his presence here.
Yeah, and I have never seen Silicon Valley like in excess, but I've seen Martin Starr in other things, and obviously his comedic timing and just like the dry humor for his character was a lot of fun for me in this episode. He was probably my favorite character if we were going to go through favorite characters aside from Lindsay.
Okay. I would have to say, the cast is unbelievable. Just hollering out everybody's name and what they've been in since that as they show up on screen was like a lot, like half of the fun. I felt like Sam, the little brother that gets picked on the entire episode, he's like a super prolific writer, and he was the kid that doesn't say anything until the very end of Waiting. Have you ever seen Waiting with Ryan Reynolds?
And he was also on Bones for a good while.
Yeah, that's where I recognized him from.
Super successful writer. Like, he's written way more shit that you know of that you don't even realize. He's the guy that was behind it. I think, favorite character-wise, Linda Cardellini's character has to be... Because she just... There's so much complexity to what's going on with her. Just, like, refusing the role that she kind of is, in a way, forced into. But at the same time, like, is trying to break out of that shell, and she just doesn't want to do what they want her to do, and it's causing issues just because she just doesn't want to. Like, that's
and it's not even so much what other people want her to do, it's like what she used to do, and she's going through a transformation. And it's like, I don't necessarily want to do that anymore. Like, I don't want to be a mathlete, you know?
You're our best
like,
mathlete.
Do other things.
I think that's like a comment too on like there's these different slots that like around like probably like the 70s or 80s got like nailed into pop culture. That's like you belong to some group, whether it's like nerds or jocks, freaks or geeks and all that shit. And like that kind of wake up call that you had, like you hopefully have in high school. It's like, I don't really need to be just this one thing. Like I can be fluid and I can figure this out. And I like how like honest this is as a depiction of high school. It's not them having like drama as if they're adults. Like they're stupid kids. And I like that like she had this traumatic event in her grandma's death that kind of like shook her and woke her out of that, and she's starting to kind of explore more of that like empathy that you kind of get as a human in high school, but like the people around her are all still so fucking wrapped up in themselves. Like Jason Segel's character is like, I'm going to show you my drum kit and that'll solve everything. You just need a drum kit.
But even like that goes to show with like her conversation with Sam in the bedroom when she's giving that exposition and giving him that story and the connection that she's trying to get from him. And he's just like, so do you think that we could like win in the fight? Like completely wrapped up in his own thing.
Yeah. But the relationship between her and Sam is also really refreshing, because you don't really get to see a lot of like sister brother relationships that are somewhat positive on TV. But I like also that her kind of comedy of errors, of every time she tries to do the right thing, it just blows up in her face. And that's like the opening with her and Sam, her trying to intervene in the fight, was just the perfect example of that. Where she's like, this is the right thing to do, so this is what I should do, and it doesn't go the way that she wants.
Okay, so if we're still talking about favorite characters, I mean, by default, I'd have to agree. Definitely Lindsay. I mean, she's kind of, at least for the pilot, she's definitely the focal point of the show. So it's like, I feel like you're supposed to connect maybe more so with her. But I did, just because like I did feel like a connection like with her character, like having been a teenage girl trying to like navigate high school and like changing like roles. Because even like whenever I watch shows like this, I always reflect on my own high school experience, and like obviously things get dramatized for the sake of like television, but like there weren't a lot of like cliques, and I never really fit into like one exactly. So like, yeah, you have like your smart friends and that's great, but then it's like, okay, yeah, like I was friends too with like some stoner kids, and just kind of like trying to balance that. Obviously like I never felt like the sort of pressure that she feels like from her parents. Like, you know, a lot of people are dead, guys. A lot of people have died. Her dad, like, shit. Her dad's character, just the whole time I kept thinking, like, watching this, I kept thinking about like the movie Mean Girls, because it's like, you're gonna have sex, you're gonna get pregnant, and you're gonna die. You're gonna skip class and you're gonna die. And like, realistically, like skipping class isn't even like the worst thing that you could do. Like when her mom dropped the line, like, I'm just glad your grandmother's not around to see you. It's like, I was like, that stung me.
Yeah.
So like, that's not a surprising line though.
No.
Like,
no,
that's 110% something that some mother would say to their child.
Thankfully not mine, but like, so
yeah, but not like months after her death.
You know, I'm interested to see how the characters like develop, especially since like Lindsay doesn't really fit in with the freaks, especially where like Kim is involved. Like Kim cannot stand her. So yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to that, because they seem to kind of go back and forth, and like between the freaks being like, sometimes at moments they seem like they're genuinely good friends, but then the other times they seem like, oh no, they're just the clueless stoner kids just floating, and they don't actually care about anything.
I really liked how they depicted each group hanging out among itself.
Yeah.
And I liked that like the show is called Freaks and Geeks, but they don't necessarily go together. You know what I mean? Like, they're not hanging out in a big group, all of those kids. Yeah. And I like that Jason Segel, Seth Rogen, James Franco appear to be upperclassmen to the Sam and then the other kid that had his shirt tucked in, and Martin Starr.
Neil and Bill.
Neil.
Yeah. Like, how they look like it's freshmen and seniors.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And in 1980, where the show is set, my dad was a high school senior. So I think that this show is especially funny just thinking about that for me.
But I did enjoy the fact that by the time the episode ended, Lindsay didn't end up with one specific group. Like, she's kind of floating, and that's very realistic, because for me, like, in high school, like, freshman year, I kind of floated. I was kind of between a few different friend groups, so, like, I'm interested to see kind of
Where they
where
wind up.
she's gonna go and stuff, and
Yeah.
how that would play out. And that's one of the questions that we ask is like, would you continue watching this? And I think I would. I don't necessarily know how urgent,
Right.
but I did enjoy it in enough to continue.
Oh, for me, it's a definite gonna go through it. Like Amanda was like, "Do you want to watch the second episode?" And I was like, "No, not yet, not yet. I have to wait." But I think we might probably pick up into it like this week, maybe even today. Like, I don't know, but I did. I think it's definitely worth the time investment, just because the characters already seemed so relatable for so many different ways. Like the nerdy kids not wanting to get involved with the bully because then it puts them on his radar, and they're like,
Yeah.
it sucks for you, our friend, but not enough for us to do anything about it.
Until they eventually do, which is fun.
Which
Yeah.
is, it was so fucking funny, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's also like going forward, I won't like stray too far out of the first episode, but like as like an incomplete series, it's really surprising to remember like how much of like the stuff that Sarah brought up like does kind of get paid off. And like
Cool.
even though like they didn't get to go forward, like even to like the way that the show ends was just like very satisfying to me.
I was gonna say, do you feel like it works as a standalone thing for what we got?
Oh yeah, for sure. Like there's definitely like loose threads, but I don't know, it kind of in its own way I guess becomes romantic in that, because you can kind of just, you know,
Assume or
did
project.
the top fall down or not, I don't know, but
I think we should talk about the Eli
Yeah.
subject matter now, because that to me caught me right off guard.
oh yeah.
I was not ready for that, and that actor was phenomenal and probably
Yeah.
had the best performance throughout the episode, because I was like, is he actually like autistic a little bit?
Yeah.
Like, does he have?
Yeah.
And like I wasn't sure. I had to look it up, and he's not.
Wow.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He's been in a lot of different things.
He did a really good job. And like, I can't say that I ever saw something like that happen, like specifically, but I know that I've seen things similar to that happen for real. And I always was the type of person that stepped in and said something. So that made me relate to her like really hard. Just trying to say the most unexpected thing to get everybody out of there.
Yeah.
Seemed like what she was trying to do, where she was like, they won't expect me to ask him to the dance. Like that'll blow their minds to the point where they won't have anything to say.
Yeah.
So then she
And
does.
it worked.
And it
Yeah.
did work. And then later on she tries to do the same thing,
And
and she completely screws herself because she's not really thinking about the impact of anything that she's saying to the person she's trying to protect. From Goldberg, from the Mighty Ducks.
Yeah.
And then I thought it was cute to put a bow on it at the end and actually have them dance and shit, like at the dance. I
Yeah.
thought that was nice.
Yeah.
Like that's where the lighthearted part of it is like, oh, well, that was sweet. At least
Yeah.
that happened.
But it's such an uncomfortable subject matter to try to tackle in a pilot episode of a television series.
As like part of your A arc, but not the whole thing.
Right.
Yes.
That to me is like where the feat in writing that is like, that's just part of the journey that they put her on in episode 1, which I thought was fucking crazy.
you can infer a lot from that interaction, like just with her character, and even just like you could say like her, like the journey that she's going to go on, because like you can tell that she is genuinely a good person and she wants to do right, but even if like your intentions are like fully good, sometimes they just don't work out, and like you just like feel like a failure. And it's just that constant like up and down, where it's like, you know, that first interaction with Eli, super positive, and then the next interaction with Eli, like you said, she tried to do the same thing and it just like fell flat. So it's just that constant like, the highs, it could be like the highs and lows of like high school, the highs and lows of like depression. Like she's clearly got a lot going on, and it's just like every time she gets up, it's like, nope, beating you back down. And she tries to like redeem herself, and thankfully, like at the end, she ultimately does.
Yeah.
From that perspective,
that's what makes it feel so real. I feel like is that no matter what, you feel like you're taking 3 steps backward when you thought you were going forward.
Right. And I think that's what, like, for me, separated this, like, pilot episode from, like, other shows that depict that kind of, like, high school journey, where it's not all just, like, wrapped up in a little bow, like, you know, Full House, you know, you sit down and you have that conversation, and at the end of the episode, like, everything is fine. It's like,
and we all get ice cream.
Yeah, exactly.
And we freeze frame.
And we all learned our lesson. But it's like, you know.
I was going to say, but it's also, on the flip side of that, it's not like your usual teenage dramas where it's like who's sleeping with who, and it's full drama and all this other stuff. It's like real issues, like that conversation that she has with Nick in the garage when he shows her his drum set. Like that was a really sweet interaction between the two of them, and that's like a really good message.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
also it was way more innocent than I thought it was.
Oh yeah.
Right?
Even she, like, you saw it on her face, like, what the fuck is he gonna show me?
Yeah. Like what? Like the fact that he was like, he just sat back in his chair. I have something to show you. Yeah. Like he thinks this drum set's gonna blow her fucking mind or something.
And she turns around, and the look on her face is just pure anxiety. Like, okay,
Right.
Yeah,
And
we'll skip. Sure.
And like he's super proud of his drum set, like, and that's like obvious, but it's like it's not even like to brag, like I'm such like an awesome drummer. It's like, no, you need to find your drum set. Like you need to find the thing that makes you happy, and like you know. Like, I thought that was sweet, and that made me, like, you know, with the characters, like, going back and forth, like, I was like, okay, that's a little up for Nick, like, his character. I'm like, okay, he has, like, he's sweet under, you know, whatever.
Yeah, and then he offers to lie to her dad for her, which was sweet, too.
Yeah.
Go to the dance. Because, like, as that episode's happening, me and Amanda are like, well, why doesn't she just go and then leave?
Yeah.
Because that's what we would have done in high school.
Yeah.
So we were like, that way you're not lying.
And he ends up at the dance anyway. You see him in the background.
It's all in the background.
And he wrote on the chalkboard, "Disco sucks." The thing about both the Nick thing and, like, the kind of silver lining of the Eli story for me is how she expects and almost kind of wants punishment for it. But then, like, the guidance counselor's character, Jeff Rosso, comes in. And she's like, am I in trouble for that? And he goes, what? I don't give a shit about that. Why aren't you on the mathletes? Yeah. So it's like, and it's more emphasized
like, what is going
after
on?
The scene in the garage where he catches them skipping. And he doesn't give a shit that Nick is skipping because he's a freak. And, like, of course he's going to skip. And, like, we're not wasting our time on him. But you're a smart kid. So you're the one that I'm investing my time in. And, like, that's such a fucking constant in the American school system is like the kids that fall through the cracks and the kids that you actually invest in, when, like, as a guidance counselor, like, your job should be to, like, care about all the kids, but you can't.
And instead we're gonna, like, blackmail you to rejoin Mathlete.
To be a Mathlete. But Nick in the background just kind of like slowly slinks away out of frame, which I thought was just hilarious.
Yeah, that was good.
Like, because they're having a good conversation in the front, but if you're paying attention in the back, he's like, oh, I could just go. He just starts walking away.
Dips.
I did like one of my favorite scenes in the whole episode was just how it opened. Like, I loved how we're on the football field, we're sweeping the camera across, we're getting into I love you, baby, I'll do anything for you, like that kind of mushy shit. And I knew it was coming, and I'd never seen this before, but I knew that what they were going to do was go underneath the bleachers to find those kids. And then they did that, and they kind of pushed through the underneath of the bleachers, and they're all just kind of hanging out and laying down and shit like that. And I was like, that was so fucking cool. Yeah, it was so fucking cool. Like, that could be the opening for every episode. like as a title sequence, and it would work out just fine. I feel like with some
Yeah.
other stupid jockey cheerleader bullshit happening up above, and then we're going into the gross underbelly of
Or
the
any other like friend group,
right.
Yeah.
because there's like a plethora of different high school
Yeah,
tropes
yeah.
that
I
they
mean,
could pull from.
the high school hierarchy exists universally. I feel like, and I think this showed this in a really like honest way. Like if this were tinged with like a super bad vernacular, it would just feel so real.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I really liked the awkwardness of a lot of it. It was so awkward and uncomfortable. For a lot of those scenes when Sam is like trying to ask what's her
my
face to the
God.
dance, it's like, come on, spit it out, just
say
ask
it.
her. Meanwhile, his friends are getting their asses kicked for him.
And he keeps looking at his watch, knowing, like, as every minute passes, oh, they're probably getting the shit kicked out of them. They're probably getting the shit kicked out of them. They're probably getting the shit kicked out of them. So, did you want to go to the dance with me?
And they made it a point to have him blow off someone earlier. Be like, no, I gotta go fight.
Yeah.
And,
yeah.
And he's like running and then immediately stops
Sit.
when he sees her.
For that girl.
Oh, yeah,
Cindy.
nothing. I'm just going home. You know? And just those long, uncomfortable pauses.
Yeah.
It's so funny. And it's so real and genuine, I feel like. The scene where Nick leans over to Lindsay in the classroom at first and just stutters like 6 times before being able to like actually say like, hey, so real. So
and Amanda was like, but Sam's like not wanting to ask her out. She's like, but it doesn't matter. Like, just ask her. And I'm like, you don't know. You don't know what goes into it. You have no idea. She's like, but he's thinking so deep.
When Bill goes,
and I'm like,
she's fucking
you don't even realize the fact that she carried that jacket across the school, what that actually means, or what he could believe that to mean. You have no idea.
his friends are just gassing him up. Like, his mind is just gone.
She saw your jacket. She remembered that it was yours. And she walked it across the campus to you.
Cheyenne made a comment. They made her dress like she was in the 70s, which, like, since it's 1980, like,
Everybody's dressing like it's the 70s.
the 70s style wasn't super apparent until she showed up.
Right. With the big fucking jacket and the the big pants and shit.
Yeah,
like,
the pants and all that. So, but the costuming, like, I feel like it worked for like an 80s thing, but up until that point, like, I wasn't thinking, oh yeah, there'd be way more 70s clothes
right.
by this point.
Like, I saw a meme the other day that was like, this is the 1980s that you think of, and there was like a Rubik's Cube chair and like vinyl records on the walls, and they were like bright colors and shit, and it was like the 80s I remember. It was just like a completely wood paneled room with brown shag carpeting and a shitty little TV with rabbit ears on it. And it was like, this was the 80s.
I will say, as far as bad performances, I would say that Seth Rogen, there wasn't much for him to do, but what he did deliver, I feel like, was very hokey.
For me, I just chalked him up to being that kid in school who desperately wants to be the cut up, like, who's really trying to make sure he has a comment on everything, to make sure that like everyone's paying attention to him, or maybe so that they don't try to say something to him because he's already put it out there. You know, he's already put out there that he's going to say something to somebody. So he, you know, it was awkward, but like I didn't think that it was distracting or unbelievable or anything. I just felt like he was that type of person. That character is that type of person. And I know I can think of like 2 kids from high school that were like that.
Fair.
I think all of the freaks really, like, they seem kind of like the least genuine people, but like very genuine characters, because like they're persona is a performance, basically.
Yeah.
So yeah, like Seth Rogen, Ken gets, I think he does get like more later on in the series, but yeah, like he targets other people so that like nothing turns around on him, basically. James Franco's character is just like, you know, he's like the leader of the group, and like he's in reality not like that good looking, like he's greasy and stuff, but like he's like playing the role of the cool guy, so he's just like, oh, people like him because he has that kind of confidence about him.
It's just the leather jacket.
Yeah, exactly. Like, and that like
he's wearing a button up otherwise.
Yeah. And that like it's obviously not apparent here because this is the pilot, but like later on, like there is kind of like that you know, coming out of reality that like, oh, you're just a fucking idiot.
Yeah.
But like, is James Franco's character, so like, is he like, from my understanding of watching the pilot, like he's like the connection like between like Lindsay and the freaks, right? Like he's the one who brings her out.
He brings her in.
And then like he introduces her. So like, do we know like how they know each other? Because like normally you wouldn't think that
he would know even who she was.
Yeah.
No, I don't think so. I think there's like a subplot of her being his tutor, but I don't think that happened before the series. So
I kind of thought that I could be like misremembering what I watched, but I kind of felt like she sought him out.
Right. Yeah, like
I think
she
wanted to talk to him, and he didn't blow her off like his friend, either of those other guys would have.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and then he was just like, yeah, you're cool.
Like,
you
this
can
is my
hang out
friend.
with us. Like, that's cool. And because he's saying it's cool, everybody's got to kind of deal with it.
Right.
Except for
exactly.
Kim.
Because he's got the leather jacket on. But if somebody killed him and took the leather jacket, they would be the leader.
Well, because Kim's not dumb. Like, Kim sees what's going on.
Right.
So
Yeah.
she just, like, she doesn't have any other language but, like, I'm,
Bully.
like, a bigger
Bully.
girl, so I have this reputation, so I have to just be strong in every situation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, like, almost sexually assault a kid.
Yeah.
Super uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So uncomfortable.
He's like, yeah, you want a big fucking kiss, huh? I'll fucking kiss you. And I was like, he was probably like, no.
Little tiny baby, like,
He was like, I
ninth
like you
grader.
as a friend. And I was like, oh, God, Sam, what are you doing?
Oh, my God.
But yeah, I thought that's just like, that was part of the charm of it. It was like, there are girls like that.
Yeah.
There were, like from my experience, there were girls that just like out of nowhere were at fucking 10 and you're like, dude, holy shit, I know you're like really accounting for some stuff you're dealing with, but fuck, man. Like, let the rest of us breathe. Holy shit.
Well, even like the line of like, oh, you're the rich girl because your dad has like
A store.
an outdoor sports store, but like
Yeah.
that like gives you so much, because like nothing, at least from like our perspective of having like hyper rich people out in the world, like nothing about Lindsay portrays like she's a rich girl, but like that tells you so much about Kim's perspective, that like your family is stable and has a
Your
business.
dad has a job.
Right. Owns
Fucking
his
richy
business.
rich person.
Yeah,
Well,
so
she
he must
even
be
says,
rich.
she's like, I shoplift from your dad's store.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, that's the dig.
I stole a hunting jacket.
Yeah.
I steal the things that your dad sells to put food on the table.
But that's a good point. Like, her perspective of Lindsay and their family, consequently, is like, they're rich, they're snobby, whatever. She doesn't belong here. She doesn't belong hanging out with us. She's just trying to, like
a
fit in
tourist.
and, like, be fake. Yeah.
Yeah.
But like, isn't it funny that the people that are so concerned about that are always the ones that are doing that themselves?
Yeah.
Which might be a meta commentary in and of itself. Is she's like projecting so much bombacity because she's a poser. Like, she doesn't actually feel that way. But that's the persona that she needs to take on.
Right.
And then she dumped her purse out, which was just rude.
Such a dick move. At least everyone kind of stayed around and they kind of, like, helped.
Well, not
Well.
at first.
Yeah.
And then the bell rang, and
Yeah.
He was like, "Yeah, I gotta go."
well, shop class is the only one he's passing, so.
But it just
That I
goes to
thought
show
was funny.
too, like, because even the conversation with the guidance counselor and stuff. Oh, I'm just Jeff. I'm just Lindsay. Like, you could talk to me, and she's just like, dude, you're so full of shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the guidance counselor. I mean, that hairline was just so uncomfortable for me to look at the whole time.
Oh, you mean the butler from Scary Movie 2?
That's all I
Yes.
could picture.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm really
Looking
a
at his
sucker
hands.
for the like free spirit guidance counselor who like really connects with the main character. So like I do love his scenes, and like that character you saw like copy and pasted like for the next 10 years after this. But
Yeah.
I think even like
Yeah.
the same actor might have done it a couple times.
Oh, for sure. For sure.
Like he definitely reminded me of the butler from Scary Movie 2, but also I kind of got I think it was the guidance counselor from Beavis and Butthead, the Fly High Lesbian Seagull guy. He had an acoustic guitar, and that was the song that he sung in Beavis and Butthead Do America.
Yeah.
I definitely got that vibe from him as well, where he just is like he's kind of like a hippie still,
Yeah.
He's
Yeah.
still like one of the remnants of the hippies, and was trying to be like free loving through being a guidance counselor kind of deal.
I was a kid once, not too long
Yeah.
ago. And just
Yeah.
like seeing him say that made me laugh. Like,
Oh, yeah.
hysterically.
I also watched Dazed and Confused for like the first time all the way through like 3 weeks ago.
Oh, wow.
So I feel like there's a way that these two things kind of roll together for me, like, because they're not necessarily too far away from each other in terms of setting timeline wise. So it's not impossible that those are the same America, because it feels kind of relatable.
Does anybody actually like dodgeball?
Oh wait, we didn't talk about dodgeball.
Because
We
I
talked about dodgeball.
fucking always hated dodgeball days.
I mean, I liked dodgeball, but I was not necessarily good at dodgeball, but I liked dodgeball.
I could relate to the kids who were like, if we just get hit, we can be done.
Oh yeah.
I was
The
like,
best
yeah, I
was-
feel that.
I loved that, like, on that bench in the gymnasium, half of it was the jocks and half of it was the freaks. And it was literally like, today we're going to play dodgeball. And the jocks were like, yeah! The freaks were all like, oh no.
And they, like, obviously they're split on opposite
Yeah.
ends of
Right.
the court. All of the geeks just running back and forth. Stay away, he's after you.
Yeah.
Hiding behind
Yeah,
the
I
big
have,
groups and shit.
Pretty vivid memories of like I wasn't the most bullied kid in gym class, so luckily like I was never the target.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, I have so many high school dodgeball memories. We got one of our professors to start like one of our fucking he was a professor, but he started a dodgeball tournament at the school where we had to like sign up and shit, and there were like practices and stuff, and we had like a whole extracurricular thing of a dodgeball tournament because my class was like, we should do dodgeball, we should do dodgeball, we should do dodgeball. Once there was a dodgeball scene, I was like, okay, we're hitting all of the notes here for me. I like this.
It's not a high school thing without dodgeball.
Right.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
At least some sort of sport where all the geeks are going to be terrible at it.
Yo.
But I like that the one, like, he lasted to the end and he was still, because there was always that one, I felt like.
Just
He
get
was like slightly
beamed.
more athletic than the rest of the geeks.
Yeah.
That was able to last
That was
a
me.
little bit longer than he should have.
That was me.
Well, when you're small, you're a smaller target.
Yeah.
It's
Jordan
so
knew
true.
how to do like the wrestling flips, so like he could dodge
Yeah.
in creative ways.
I thought I did.
Right.
I had the confidence that I could.
Right.
Overall, I enjoyed the show. I will probably keep watching it. I don't know how regularly. I don't know if it'll be like a all-in-one kind of scenario or just like,
Right.
let's throw it on like at night.
Yeah.
But I do want to continue watching it. I do really like Linda Cardellini. Like, I like all of the actors pretty much.
Yeah.
Like, that cast is phenomenal. Just to go back
Yeah.
and say that.
Mhm.
Linda Cardellini especially, but still my heart. She's
Yeah.
so pretty. So
And that's like right before Scooby-Doo, right? Like that.
It was a
Scooby-Doo
while
happens,
before
like, very.
Scooby-Doo. Well, you also, without this, you don't get Forgetting Sarah Marshall, because Jason Segel and Linda Cardellini met in Freaks and Geeks, and they dated, and then he based their breakup. He based Forgetting Sarah Marshall on their breakup.
No way.
Yeah.
I didn't know
I
that.
didn't
Yeah.
know that.
Yeah.
Scooby-Doo was 2002. by the
I
way.
just looked it
Oh,
up.
wow.
Okay.
I can't believe it was that short. God, there's just such like a separation between like Scooby-Doo, Linda Cardellini, and this Linda Cardellini in my mind.
Yeah, there's only like 3 years then separating, and
crazy.
she might have even filmed it 2 years after this,
Yeah. Jesus.
which is like, whoa.
Because they all look like high school kids.
Yeah,
Yeah.
They're
honestly.
all genuinely, like, nowadays they cast like 40-year-old men as like 17-year-olds.
That's a
But-
joke in the first Scary Movie, but
Yeah.
what are they going to do? Get a bunch of people in their mid-30s to play high schoolers, and they all sit there and laugh, and then they're like,
I guess she was already 25 when they filmed this, so
wow.
Wow.
Yeah.
What? Damn.
I
24.
would never guess she was 25.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Weird.
Movie magic.
Right? Just put a bunch of loose-fitting clothes on her, and you'll never guess her.
Really good skincare routine.
Yeah.
That helps.
So, Sarah, any final thoughts on Freaks and Geeks, episode 1?
I'm definitely gonna I think general consensus. Definitely gonna watch it. I have a few other shows I want to finish up, but it feels like it's a good thing to kind of like put on when you don't really know what to watch and you don't need want to commit to something that's like crazy. Because sometimes I'm not in the mood to watch something that needs a whole lot of like brain power, and this seems like the kind of show you can just like put on, enjoy it, and then you're like, all right, I'm gonna go to bed or whatever.
Right.
I'm glad that I finally watched it. I didn't really know what to expect, because despite the fact that this has been out for most of my life, I just never really knew what it was about. And I just really
It's right there in the title.
wow. I mean, if we're gonna get technical, I mean, geek could mean a lot of different things. But no, I'm glad that I finally got to watch it. I really actually enjoyed the fact that I recognized so many of the actors and actresses in it. Like with Busy Phillips, I was like, God, I recognize her, and then I had to look her up. I was like, why? I don't even know why I knew her, but like her face, as soon as she came on screen, I was like,
White chicks.
White Chick.
yeah, okay,
Which is only a few years after this also.
so it's crazy. So for me, I like best remembered Linda Cardellini actually from the show ER, because like growing up I watched that with my mom, and I was, you know what I mean, so it's like, but I reckon like I'm like, I've seen everybody in something.
Yeah.
Overall really enjoyed it. I'm gonna definitely continue watching it for sure.
Yeah, and I definitely feel like we're gonna continue forward with this show. I thought this episode was really good. It was almost in itself like a small short film in a way. Like it kind of buttoned up some things that it started, and you could just watch this on its own and be like, that was pretty fucking good. It's like a nice little window into a set period of time. But like Sarah said, she didn't know necessarily what the show was about, because the word geek could mean so many things. And I think as a society, we've kind of redefined what that word means.
Maybe
to a
for the
certain
worse.
extent.
Now, yeah.
Right. So like going back and being like, oh, they meant like those geeks. It's just kind of funny. But yeah, no, I thought the show was awesome, and I'm definitely going to keep watching it.
Yeah, this definitely like brought up a lot of nostalgia for me, and I think I do eventually want to go back and like watch the rest of it. It's just amazing to think about how like I said earlier, just like a canceled show could like lead to so many like successful careers. Like
Yeah.
even like Paul Feig and Judd Apatow, I think
Yeah.
were all already pretty somewhat established, or that's how they got their own show. But then like their careers within like the next 10 years of this like just really skyrocketed, and even like carrying all this cast with them, which like I'm sure like every actor that like we still know about today like probably owes their success to some continued relationship with those guys.
Yeah,
which
I mean,
is,
Judd and Seth work together a whole bunch.
yeah,
so.
and I think that's like a good comment that they care about their projects and the people they work with too, and they like take care of each other, which is good to see. If it's true, it's kind of an assumption on my part. This was a really like kind of refreshing rewatch for me.
Yeah. And almost like a refreshing episode of Pop Kannon.
Right.
Yeah, a nice little S1E1.
Nice little Lime-A-Rita in the middle of the day.
Make sure you subscribe on all of your favorite podcast platforms and all the like so you never miss another episode. Especially on YouTube where you could see our wonderful faces. Robert, you wanna roll the follow us?
Yeah, you could follow us at Pop Kannon on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, all of them. Pick one. All of them. Any of them.
Why not all? All of the above.
Sounded like we chopped up a bunch of old audio of you to make that.
If you would like to, you can find us individually. I am Jordan. You can find me on Instagram and Twitter at JL24FPS.
I'm Robert. You could find me on Instagram and Twitter at Yesball.
I'm Sarah. You can find me on Instagram at SarahAndDippity.
I'm Joe. I'm on Instagram and Twitter at Joe for Broke.
So once again, thank you for watching and or listening. Let us know what you thought of Freaks and Geeks. Are you a big fan of it? Have you ever seen it before? Let us know. And as always, we'll see you on the very next episode of Pop Kannon.
Sayonara.